Welcome to Sports Close-Up. Mike Fiorillo, co-host Jim Berger. Jim, good to see you.
Mike, thank you.
And our guest here as we talk about major college and pro football preview. To my left, Bill Greggs, the registered Brown.
Sporting the orange today.
Sporting the orange. To his left, the most knowledgeable man about the Steelers and Pitt, Lon Wilson.
Sorry, I'm sporting pastels. I'm going to a gender reveal party here in a little bit. So
just held his holdout, Lon, after 2 years absent. John Swick, who signed, I heard he signed a contract like Odell Beckham to come on the show.
Yesterday, some hardcore negotiations brought me here, and I'm happy to be here.
And you're still working.
First
John,
NAFTA, now John Swick.
And I'll tell you what, we miss John because he knows all about the teams. Lon, you know, he knows everything there is to know.
We had a rather extensive review already, so we're ready for this.
We're ready for this.
Yep.
First thing I want to talk about some major college football developments, and let's go right to Ohio State. Urban Meyer suspended 3 games. First week, he's not allowed to practice or coach. The next 2 weeks, he's allowed to be with the team during practice, but he's not allowed to coach. Supposedly, he is getting reprimanded for lying about the situation with one of his assistant coaches, verbally and physically abusing his ex-wife. Not only when he was at Ohio State, but supposedly when he was head coach of Florida. The coach in question is related to former coach of Ohio State, who gave Urban Meyer his first job, so there's a connection there. So, guys, I just want your reaction. Let's start with you, Mr. Ohio State.
I am Mr. Ohio State. In fact, I lived in Columbus when they won the national title, delivered newspapers to Archie Griffin's house. So
nice.
I'm coming in this with a little bit
tipper?
of... I can't remember that,
Right.
but I'm coming in with a bit of a pro-Buckeye bias on this. And I guess my first thought about this is, you read all the headlines that Ohio State has chosen football over integrity, and if that's the case, we'll discuss the merits of that. But I wonder how many of these so-called the pundits and the do-gooders around the country have really studied and know the facts before they come to those conclusions. And you mentioned about physical and verbal abuse. Well, those are alleged actions. They've been investigated, and there had never been any charges filed. So I think that needs to be always kept in context. As I understand the facts...
Is there a difference what happened to Ohio State than what happened to Penn State then?
Well, I think those are apples and oranges.
Yeah. Really?
Yes, oh, definitely.
Okay.
But
So,
I think you could argue that if Urban Meyer didn't do anything wrong, why does he have a 3-game suspension?
That's exactly.
And that may be a good point. I just don't think that whatever he did in terms of making misstatements at Big Ten Media Days is a fireable offense.
So then, in his new contract, which he signed earlier this year, they put in a clause, if I'm not mistaken, if he embarrasses the university, they could fire him without paying him. But do you think because it happened so late in the season, they gave him a 3-game suspension because, number one, they're going to have a real good team, and number two, didn't have a chance to get a coach?
No, I think it's just a question that they determined that he met the minimum standards of reporting.
So you don't think it has nothing to do
Kind of
with
the Joe Paterno, if you want to make that analogy, meeting the minimum standards.
So he had nothing to do with their football program and bringing money in this year. I'm just saying.
I'm realistic about it. He's won a national championship at Ohio State. He has the record. He has the recruiting stature. It's almost unsurpassed, at least in the Midwest.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Lon, what are your feelings about this?
I'm going to defer a lot of this to Attorney John Swick, because we've ad nauseum dissected the NCAA and
yield your time.
and the inconsistency of punishments.
Thank you. Did the NCAA do anything? It was just Ohio State's punishment.
Well, I'm not a fan of Ohio State, and I'm not a fan of Penn State. I don't like either team, so I want to make that very clear. Mm-hmm. Urban Meyers, I don't know him. Right. Is Urban Meyers dislike women and love the game of football more, to avoid situations like this? I don't know. That's a very, we knee jerk so hard. Domestic violence is a awful scourge. It needs to be hit head on when you have a violent man or woman in a household. There's only one way to deal with that, and that's swiftly remove the person from the situation. And I've had firsthand, accounts of this, in my lifetime of the work I've done, and it's a very serious matter. But how far do you dissect it down to a head coach? I mean, was there another assistant coach that knew? Did the trainer know? The punishments are so, I don't get it. He can't use the water fountain outside of his office for 2 weeks, and he has to use the bathroom down the hall for at least an additional 1 week and can't use his. I don't know the NCAA, and I don't know the right answer to all this because the water is so muddy, so muddy. Swick, clean it up for me, kid.
Yeah, these are hypersensitive times, right? And it's almost as if you come out for Urban Meyer continuing as a coach, you're then labeled as someone who is not against domestic violence, right? Which is that leap of logic is not fair, but it's there. So a couple things. One, I agree with what Mike's saying. If Urban Meyer's not 73-8 over his career at Ohio State, he probably is not in his position right now. That's the reality of it. However, the flip side of that is two things. One, me as an employer, I try to personalize this and say if my wife receives a text message from the wife of one of my employees alleging some misconduct, what are my obligations as an employer? Granted, it's not exactly a true analogy because there are some specific Title IX reporting requirements that Urban Meyer was supposed to adhere to, and supposedly he did. So if anybody maybe is the fall guy here, I think it's the athletic director at Ohio State that maybe is the one that should have lost their job here. So that's unfortunate. But the real danger here is that you have a situation where the mere allegation against somebody now probably is going to cost them a career. So if you have a situation out there where you have a man or woman who feels wronged in the relationship, and that person is a coach, is something in a popular position or a public position, those allegations now most likely would mean the end of their career. And that's unfortunate if they are in fact not accurate. We have no vetting process anymore right now. They come out, it's the shock journalism. It's immediate rush to judgment.
Right.
It's immediate. Everyone's has pitchforks in their hand, and we're ready to attack somebody without seeing. To Bill's point, what did Urban Meyer do wrong? What did he? We think. I think at minimum he lied at that press conference, but I would say he lied to cover up the AD. So again, I think it goes back to the AD. So. Tough times. Is he still? Do I have a problem that he's still coaching? Probably not. Do I have a problem with the suspension? I don't think I do. But it's a microcosm of a larger issue in society and in athletics and in the old boys club of coaches.
Right. Can I have one caveat? I thank you for that. But here, I look at this at the end of the day too. Just like the kneeling in football, dealing with these kind of issues. Does this stop domestic violence? Is this coach a better person now? Is this woman safe? Are people safer out there right now? What lessons are learned? Have we moved the ball forward any way, shape, or form to make anybody better as persons or people because of this, John Swick?
Probably not.
No. Nothing has happened because of people taking what they call drastic measures against bad people without a due process or vetting. And that's the whole thing, is there's no teeth to it.
They did sort of have a due process, I guess. John, you better answer this than I. They had a committee that investigated the whole thing.
Yeah, they got
A blue ribbon panel.
Came out that they said he lied. Urban Meyer's lied. I'm not sure who he lied to, but he lied.
And I guess that was the basis of suspension.
And then they came out with a 3-game suspension. To me, I think they had created more problems with that suspension than not. They should either said he lied, then he apologized, he's our coach, we're standing by him, or he's out for a year because of what he did. 3 games, I don't know. Who determines 3 games, Lon? I mean, somebody sits there and says, let's see, who are we playing the first 3 games?
I know, exactly.
Well,
Let's
they're playing
parse this out
TCU,
here.
so
Yeah.
that's
the
going to be a
third
hurt
game.
there. But
I mean, come on. I don't know. I just think it's ridiculous. I think, I don't know Urban Meyer's either, but I know he has 2 daughters, and I don't think he's a fan of domestic violence either. When he has his own 2 daughters at home. I think he could probably hurt somebody that tried to hurt his.
But
daughters.
there's got to be some kind of a process too, because things happen in situations.
But if he did tell the AD, then I agree with John. That AD should have been fired on the spot.
as this played out, I thought that was the more likely scenario. That Gene Smith his head was going to roll on this thing.
And that would have
didn't
stopped
happen.
domestic violence all over Ohio.
No, but Lon, the thing is though, is when you're preaching to young kids, when you have them in front of your team, you tell them to
That starts
behave,
at home.
do this, but you still are in charge of your football program.
If you're not raising your boy to be a good man towards woman, then I don't give a rat's ass where you're gonna, what kind of public figure you're gonna destroy is gonna make that situation better. Starts at home.
Jim's dying to jump in.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Jim.
No, it's quite all right.
Hey, give us the cleaned up political version.
Well, no, no, I was just very curious about what actually went into that investigation. You talked about the panel. It seemed to drag on. It seemed like maybe tomorrow we'll have something. Maybe tomorrow we'll have something. I'm not sure. I haven't followed it that closely. Who was the panel? You know, who did it consist of? What kind of things did they look into? If it's very reputable and they did find out that he did something wrong, you know, maybe he did. You know, maybe there is merit to the suspension. I was just very curious as to what exactly went into this investigation. You see old text messages, old emails and stuff. You know, who made up this panel? You know, and how did they come to this final decision?
Well, they allocated $500,000. The chairman of the committee was the former head of the SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission. It was blue ribbon as far as, and it was independent from the university.
Yeah, and that 500,000 would have gone a long way to shelter.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Thank you.
That's exactly right. That's what I thought.
We pissed more money away on feelings than actual service.
I
I'm
think the
sorry,
bottom
Mike.
line is it's hurt the Ohio State brand. It's hurt Urban Meyer's reputation.
I never liked him anyway.
Is Urban Meyer's coach next year? Some people think he'll leave after this.
I don't know.
Just get out.
He left Florida pretty abruptly.
He's loaded up
I mean-
with 5-star recruits. So.
No, but I mean, because of this,
No.
and what happens the rest of the year, maybe he'll decide to give it up. I don't know. But we talked about Urban Meyer's enough. Let's look at the Big Ten real quickly, because the Big Ten is loaded again. I think Ohio State wins the East despite Urban Meyer's 3-game suspension, and coming out of the West, probably Wisconsin. But I look at Nebraska getting better every year since they have a coach now.
They got a real quarterback problem in Nebraska. I don't know
No.
if you saw that or not, but
Yeah.
they're down to one scholarship quarterback.
Right.
So
But
we'll
I
see.
think-
But they got the new coach, and it should be interesting.
I think he'll turn them around. Even so, his house was broken into, and all this.
I think it's kind of
Did you
disappointing.
see that? His house was broken
Yes.
into in Nebraska already, and they stole all valuable stuff from his house. He didn't even lose a game yet.
There's really not much parity in the Big Ten. I mean, the Big Ten East is like
Yeah.
killers
So
row
what
there.
do you guys think about the East? Any reaction?
Well, I got Indiana coming out on top.
Yeah.
So it's-
Is that the swim team? Lon, or-
yes. You're right. I mean, there's a few surprises that come along in the Big East, or I'm sorry, not the Big East, the Big Ten. Every once in a while, I don't see it. I think Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State, your Wisconsins of the world are, they're going to be your dominant teams, and that's all there is to it. I mean, right now their recruiting classes are vintage. They're fine. I mean, they're doing well. The rich are getting richer, John
We
Swick.
get to see Meadville's Jeremy Brown returning kicks this year for
That's
Penn
right.
State.
Yeah,
That'll be
that's
exciting.
exciting.
Yeah.
But to your point, I wonder how, and this happens in primarily basketball and football on the collegiate level, how the rich do get richer, to your point, how these teams that are successful continue that success. And that's where I find there has to be something untoward here, right? I mean, there's no way just happenstance that North Carolina is always good in hoops or Duke's always good in hoops, and Michigan and Ohio State, and you have in LSU and Alabama, you have these teams that are always the powerhouses in football. The investigation started with NCAA basketball, and some indictments now of certain pay for play, certain agents being involved, certain shoe companies being involved. That's the tip of the iceberg. And who was it in the NBA said, "You boys just finding this out now"? Michael Beasley.
Michael Beasley,
Yeah.
prophetic
You guys-
words.
you guys just finding this out
you just
now.
finding about this now?
So it makes my enjoyment.
Yeah.
I don't want the curtain pulled back, and I feel like the curtain's pulled back, and I see what's behind
Yeah.
major sports. Football.
Oh, I mean, it's
Well,
starting to just trickle down too. Look, talk about AAU
Yes.
and everything else. The whole thing. I mean, open gyms in high school now.
What about
You know-
gambling now? Is that going to affect?
Absolutely not. There's going to be degenerate gambling everywhere.
No, I meant as far as players getting paid off a little bit and so forth.
I think college
Money.
players are much more easily influenced than a pro would be.
Or
You know,
they're-
that's why my favorite 30 for 30 of all time is the one on the Boston College
Oh, that was
point
cool.
shaving
Right.
scandal, and
Yeah.
those guys were smart in Boston College,
Right.
well-to-do. I think that and these college guys now. You talked about the $500 handshakes and the free shoes and everything. I know college athletes supposedly don't make any money. They're living in poverty with the meal plan and everything. They talk about that new wage that the NCAA wants to pay them. But I think the college athletes are much easily influenced. I think football is a harder sport to influence than a basketball would be, or even a baseball. But I think that there may be some influence there with these big-time college kids.
Arch Leaster probably said, "Where was it when I played?"
Actually,
How about Pitt now? What kind of a year was Pickett having the ACC football-wise? And I really like their coach. I think he's going to turn it around, but I don't know. What do you guys think? Come on, Pitt.
I'm a Pitt
guy.
fan. Ever since Foz Fazio broke my heart, those pieces have been laying there. And Swicky, I can't pick up. I don't like their stadium. I don't like
They
where
don't have a stadium,
play.
right? They play at Heinz
They play in
Field.
Heinz Field. It's
Yeah.
just
I apologize.
it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible for college, especially for for Pitt football, especially someone as big a fan as I am. Everybody talks about the quarterback. We like what we see there. It's just you got Clemson. You got some tough teams in the ACC.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. If you're talking ACC, okay, Clemson, you win.
And you know what?
That's it.
You know what's really hurt Pitt, I think, and I know they're playing Penn State this year, but probably not next year. I think when they had the Penn State West Virginia Pitt rival, that was fun. People got excited for those games.
West Virginia
They're all in a
backyard
different
brawl.
conference now.
You're saying Pitt opens up with Albany? That's not
Albany.
That's not
Well,
moving the needle for you.
I would tell you what, John.
Yeah, Ball State would have been right there, and I would have been.
My sister and brother-in-law are coming down because they're big Steeler fans, and they're coming to see the Chiefs. And since my sister got her fellowship, she won a fellowship and got her higher education from Pitt. I said, "You want to go with Pitt games?" She says, "All right." So I got tickets for Georgia Tech Pitt.
Okay, Ramblin' Wreck.
$18. I looked at the same tickets for Penn State, $300 each.
Yeah.
And that's the only game there.
No. I just talked to a person last week I had breakfast with. I'm not going to name the person. But they actually got Pitt season tickets just to get the Pitt Penn State
I'm
game.
sure, yeah.
That's it.
Right.
I mean, that's insane.
And if you've gone to the Pitt games down at Heinz Field, the atmosphere's not there. I would think it'd be very difficult to recruit.
Yeah.
You take them to Ohio State or Penn State,
Exactly.
and you take them to the atmosphere at Pitt. That's a tough
When
sell.
you're down in Oakland, right there with the whole lifeblood of Pitt and that
could've been
atmosphere,
Pitt Stadium was a
loved
tremendous
it.
venue.
It was. It was just.
Once
it
you
was.
climbed the hill to get to it, but
That was a climb, but it was a beautiful.
ironically,
just
John,
stadium.
I think when they went to the Three River Stadium or whatever it is, Heinz Field, that they thought that was going to be a recruiting advantage.
I agree.
Look here, there's Heinz Ward's locker, and I mean,
Well, I think that and their training facility is with the Steelers. I think that probably is an advantage. It's down on the south side. It's
Well,
not
it's
on
the
campus
students
either.
can't walk out of the dorm rooms and go to the games.
My
I
daughter
mean,
went
that's-
And the players can't walk out and go to practice. Players got to get bused to practice. They got to get bused to the games.
Yeah.
That probably gets a little old after a while. But that would be cool, I think, as a college kid to see the pro athlete in the training facility, literally going in the door right next to you. And I've been to that facility. It's beautiful, and I could see that as an advantage. Yeah,
It's not a college football park. It's just not.
So if we look at the major college as a whole, I see Alabama's favored #1 already this year. John, you talk about reloading. I mean, what does Saban do? Does he just open the door and people just come to play?
Yeah, how's that happen?
Every year.
It's just,
The controversy right now is who's going to be a starting quarterback, 1 or 1A. I mean, come on.
it would be a starting quarterback on any other team
Exactly.
probably.
So, and they have Clemson being up there again this year. They say Alabama, Clemson. I don't know who the other ones that are in the top 5 right now, but I know Alabama, Clemson. And I like the first game Notre Dame opens up with. You have Brian Kelly, who's real calm. I guess Jim Harbaugh on the other sideline, who's real calm. You ever see those two guys coach? They go nuts.
Yeah. I like to see that enthusiasm. I think Harbaugh's done well up in Michigan. I mean, I don't know about any of
He's
his
got
opinion.
a little bit of a
He takes that
No,
year-
he had-
another stride to make here. Before
He has to
I think this is a
listen.
critical year this year. I think there's going to be some people after him.
Well, this
Did you
year
have
his
to beat Ohio State this year, John?
well, that's one thing.
well this year his
I think
stamp
you're
is
rid
really
of
going to
him,
be
but-
on that team.
Lon
He's had time to
wants to go to
develop.
the NFL.
What's that?
Lon wants to go to the NFL.
No, I love college. I think-
He how about takes his team to Europe every year? This year it went to what, Italy?
yeah.
I think Italy this year. So that's a recruiting thing,
Those
isn't
poor,
it?
impoverished college athletes.
I want to
Yeah, I know. You're just talking about living in. I just saw a one on minor league baseball players and how poorly they're
Make
treated.
$200 a month.
Hey, you don't have to play the game if you don't want to. It's
John
not
Eagles
there.
hiring.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
right.
Taking applications
All
for the
right, guys,
bakery.
let's go to the pros, and let's start, since we are in Steeler Brown country, let's start with the conference that has both of them in it, AFC North.
We're gonna go right at it.
Right at it, AFC North. And I said this last time, I'm going to say it again. I'll start it until someone shows me they can beat the Steelers in the AFC North. Steelers are the favorite to win that division. And I think hands down. I know a lot of people are excited about the Ravens. Yeah, okay, Flacco by the fourth can't be throwing interceptions all over the place. The Bengals,
Flacco
come on. The
bashing.
Bengals can't get out of their own way. I think the Browns will win some games. I kind of surprised in their draft. What else is new? But I think Josh Gordon's coming back, and they got Landry as the other wide out. I think Mayfield's a tough kid. I think they could win 3 or 4 games this year. And I think if that's the case, John and Lon and Jim and Bill, as you guys know, Budweiser's got those kegs that are wrapped up in Cleveland, and the first game they win, free beer for everybody in Cleveland.
Oh, September 9th.
Oh, there you go. You're already.
He's making a prediction.
So that's my prediction. AFC. One team comes out, and that's. Oh, I do have. I actually had the Ravens as the wild card this year, but Steelers, I think, will win that division.
I have the Steelers. I have them. They were 13-3 last year. I have them falling back to 10-6.
Excuse me, with Meadville's own Randy Feetner, the offense coordinator.
Oh, there you
We're all
go.
rooting for him.
Yes, we are.
Kind of by default, as far as the AFC is concerned, I do have Baltimore squeaking in as a wild card
Yeah,
team.
I do too.
I have the Bengals experiencing the biggest slide. I'm seeing them going from like 7-9 to about 3-13 this year.
Which means they'll be looking for a new coach.
No, they
And
won't.
I have the
They'll be there
Browns.
No, they don't. Marvin ain't going nowhere.
I have the Browns on the basis of a soon-to-be dominating defense, going 7-9 this year.
Okay.
And I think the offensively there, it's going to be a slow go. I think we're not going to see too much from the Browns offense until maybe they get into a stride if they get Josh Gordon integrated into the offense.
So you have them going 7-9?
Yep.
Wow.
They're going into the season, crossing our fingers, unusually healthy this year. So
Well, I know the third game of the season will be a big one for you and I, because the Thursday night game is the Jets at Cleveland, so somebody might have their first win.
Well, the ratings ought to be soaring for that night.
Big ratings for that one. Huh?
U.S. Open tennis or that.
Well, go ahead.
Yeah, you know what? I want to stand by my predictions that I made on the radio. First and foremost, the Cleveland Browns, they're not going to enjoy the strength of schedule like the other teams in the division are. Cleveland Browns actually have one of the top 5 toughest schedules in the NFL this year. Steelers, the other teams, are down at the bottom with easier schedules this
How did
year.
that work out?
I don't know. They're Cleveland. That's what happens. So, with that said, I made a bold prediction just out of fun. And I'm going to stick with it. I like Josh Gordon coming back. I'm going to say the Steelers, I like your point. They are going to roll back a little bit. But I think the Steelers come out and the Browns take a wild card spot. It's my dramatic pick of the day. So
You're
that's
there
right.
first right now.
And
I'll have
that's right. I'll have new friends.
did you know
They'll be partying in Cleveland.
in Las Vegas they're taking more bets on the
Yes,
Browns to
yes.
win the division than all 3 of the other teams combined?
Yeah.
Oh,
because
it's
of
chic. Every year there's a chic pick. You want to be fun with the other
Put
kids. You
$100
know?
down.
It's because you can't make any money betting the Steelers.
Exactly.
That's
So
right.
I heard this prediction on the radio, which we don't tape.
Right. That's
now
called,
it's
yeah.
on film.
That's right.
So we
Oh,
got-
that's evidence.
Yeah. So what's interesting about the AFC North, and actually it's the same about the whole AFC, is there's not a lot of change from the prior year, 2016 to 2017. For those of you who watched the show the last couple of years, I like to see the trends of teams, plus and minus wins from year to year. And in the AFC, there's only 2 teams that won 4 games or more from the prior year, and that was the Jaguars and the Chargers. In the AFC North, not a lot of changes from 2016 to 17, and I don't see a lot of changes going forward in this division either, other than I think Cleveland definitely is going to win a few more games. I'm not sure they're going to get to 8-8, but I see a 5 or 6 win team. I agree with Mike. I think Cincinnati and Bill, Cincinnati takes a step back. Maybe it will be finally the end of the Marvin Lewis era. I don't know. I'm not an advocate of changing coaches. Obviously, being a Steeler fan, I think that the antithesis of a successful franchise is changing coaches, but maybe his time is done. The only intrigue I see out of Baltimore is how long Joe Flacco holds on to his job.
Right.
We had our radio show when we did our predictions, and I think the whole crew was saying that he would not be
Except Lon Wilson.
Yeah, the starting
Yeah,
quarterback.
the Flacco bashing is
Yeah.
enough.
Right. There was almost unanimity over a change in quarterbacks there in Baltimore.
And who
so,
is there?
You guys see Lamar Jackson getting
Yeah,
playing
Lamar
time this
Jackson. I
year?
think Lamar Jackson's going to
That was a
come in,
great
so-
pickup by them.
So I think this is the one. Last year it's interesting. The last 3 years, what has happened in the AFC North, it went from 3 teams in the playoffs down to 1 the last 2 years, and I think we're going to see 1 again this year.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. The Steelers are the class of the division. It'll be interesting to see Le'Veon Bell. Is he going to play with a chip on his shoulder to get that next contract? If not, I think James Conner's a solid number 2. But if you have a very healthy, very productive Le'Veon Bell, a determined guy, I think that could be scary for some of the defenses in the NFL.
I don't think he starts first week. I think James Conner will start the first week.
He's had a great preseason.
He's had a great he lost a lot of weight. He's in better shape.
He's catching the ball now, and that
Yep.
was a knock on him.
Yep.
He couldn't pick up blitzers,
Right.
Block, yep.
and he couldn't block, and he couldn't catch the ball, and he's doing both of those.
I think he doesn't start the first game, Jim, but I agree with you. You know what? If I'm a Steeler, you know what I do? I run Bell. Yeah.
Run him till his legs fall.
Why not?
Absolutely.
Not coming back. See
He's
ya.
not coming
Yep.
back.
That's
So
right.
just run him.
Which they have done the last couple of years. He's led the league in touches, so it's not like that's a new
And
strategy.
that's a good point about James Conner because this is, we got to cut away from this. This is,
I'm having all kind of wind problems.
John Swick demands better blocking in his scenes.
Better direction.
But you got a player who has nothing to lose. That's a dangerous player, and I think James Conner is going to get that. And you're right, the coaching was exactly what he needed, because he was very one-dimensional.
Yeah.
When he was spotting, last year.
Lon and John, what about this? They say that Ben is so happy because Featon is his offense coordinator. They are like an item. They get along really well. They did when he was the quarterback coach.
That was a good hire by Ben. It really was.
They said, and they said Ben is tickled pink, and and they think Ben's gonna have a great year because of that, because he can actually call some plays.
I think that he's very underrated still. I don't, the Steelers are Ben Roethlisberger. You see that. I've read it in a couple different publications.
Yeah.
You take him out of that offense. I don't care if you have Antonio Brown or Le'Veon Bell. Ben
It's
Roethlisberger
no
is a
offense.
good NFL quarterback, and
Good.
he's there. He could be.
I think year in and year out, he's the MVP of the league. You take him out of there, put
Exactly.
Landry
But when
Jones
you
in,
talk
and
about
they're
most valuable
fighting it out
player,
with the
I
Browns.
think that young kid eventually will surpass Landry John. I think Rudolph will be a decent quarterback someday.
It's
Yeah.
intriguing.
Yeah.
It's intriguing, but I'll leave it at intriguing.
But anyhow, I have the Steelers probably 11 wins. They're the only playoff team I see coming out of the Ravens. Again, same thing. I don't see Flacco sticking around. What happens if they put in Jackson? I have the Browns actually in third place. I can also see them, 5 or 6 wins, very improved. It'll be interesting to see Josh Gordon and Tyrod Taylor also. I'm surprised the Bills gave up on him so early. Is he going to be the
I
starter?
like Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah, I do too. I mean,
I
he
thought
did
the
well in
Browns made a
Buffalo.
great pick.
And then again, I have the Bengals at the bottom of the division.
Andy Dalton.
Exactly, Andy Dalton. It seems like ever since that vicious mayhem of a wild card game a couple years back against the Steelers, that seemed to kind of put the nail in the current Cincinnati Bengals coffin. It'll be interesting to see when these two teams meet up again this year, how much violence and carnage and blood it is, because those games are always a bloodbath. I think the Bengals are more interested in hurting the Steelers and beating the Steelers, so that's a matchup I really don't look forward to every year. But now I see the Bengals actually in last place. So, Steelers are the only team I see coming out of the North.
Look at the AFC East, because my team sits in that division, unfortunately. New York Jets, you have the Patriots, the Dolphins, and the Bills. And I actually am excited about the Jets because I finally think we got a quarterback that's going to be there for a while. I really like Sam Darnold. I think he's going to be an excellent pro. Doesn't have a lot around him right now, but I think he's going to be great. And what I'm hearing is from people in New York that I know that he'll probably start the season at the quarterback position, which I think is a good idea. If you're going to sign somebody third in the draft, and I guess the Jets were tickled pink when the Browns picked Mayfield. So they think they have their man. I'd look for them to start week 1. I think the Jets can win maybe 4 or 5 games this year. But I really like Todd Bowles a lot, and I'm hoping he keeps his job. So we'll see there. New England's going to win that division. As long as Tom Brady's there, they're going to win. Tom Brady, to me, is an exceptional quarterback that everybody else could have had in the first 5 picks of the draft when he came out, and they all passed on him. Miami's Miami. I don't know what they're going to do down there, South Beach. Maybe they'll win 4 or 5
Miami's a mess.
games.
I don't care what anybody says. That's just a messy
It is
team.
a mess down there. And the Bills, I think the Bills will be good. I think the Bills got a good coach now. They're going with a young kid at quarterback too, I think. So we'll see. But New England rules the roost, and they're the only team in my eyes that comes out and goes to the playoffs.
Well, obviously I have New England also, but I kind of picked them as a division winner by default.
Yeah, it is by default.
I look at the AFC East as the worst division
No question.
in the NFL.
Easiest one to pick.
Yeah, it
And,
is.
but it's funny, if you look at New England's roster, I mean, how many teams have Kevin Hogan as their number one offensive threat?
They've really taken a step back.
Or running backs like Rex Burkhead. I mean,
But
these-
we've said they've stepped back every time, and
Yeah, we
We
it's
just did
like-
the Super Bowl last year with the step back
yeah,
roster.
let's, you find me a white kid with one leg, and they throw him out there, and he's catching 800 yards.
You
You
know what
know,
helps
They're-
them is
they got versa-
they're in that division, so they're guaranteed 6 wins. So they have a good chance to have the best record in the AFC again.
their defense last year, I think, was almost at the bottom in yards.
They
Given
improved
up.
halfway.
But they were in top
They
five
were
for
top
points.
5 in points
Yeah.
allowed, yeah.
So,
Ben
I
stuff-
mean,
but
if
Ben,
that
but don't
dam
break.
breaks at some point,
Right.
they're not gonna have such an easy go.
And they lost their D coordinator.
Just for record purposes, I have the Bills as the worst team in the NFL this year.
Oh, thank you.
Oh wow.
A little contrary to.
Yeah.
I thought it'd be my team, which is okay with making more
Yes.
draft picks.
I also have Lamar or Darnold running third on the depth chart at this point, so that's.
He's going to start.
I kind of thought McCown would start, and maybe Bridgewater would come in if McCown goes down.
I look for the Jets to trade Bridgewater as soon
I do too.
as somebody gets hurt early on for a first
Yep.
or second rounder.
Yeah.
He's had a heck of a camp, too.
Yes, he has. He's good.
Well,
Lon?
hey, I'm gonna make this real easy. New England, Swick.
Yeah. Yeah, well, interestingly enough, this has actually been a two-team playoff division the last 2 years. Dolphins 2 years ago and the Bills last year. I think that ends. I agree with Bill. I think this is the worst division. I agree with Mike, though. The Jets are going to step forward this year. They won 5 games the last 2 years. I see them winning 6 or 7 games, maybe even 8 games. I don't think they make the playoffs, but I think they're going to be better. I do think they trade Teddy Bridgewater. I love to talk about them going out, maybe getting Khalil Mack. I think now it's just rumors. I don't know. And when we air this, it probably will have resigned by Oakland already, and it'll be a moot point. But I think it'd be a great move for them right now. They got a ton of cap. The thing about the NFL, you have to make hay when you got a quarterback that starts under his rookie contract. That's when you have all your money. That's what teams have done it. Seattle did it. You could see over at the Colts did it. Andrew Luck. You could before they sign that second contract is when you go out and get guys. This is where the Jets are. I think they start Donald, trade Bridgewater. They got McCown as a good backup. I think they win 7 or 8 games. So I think these two teams, believe it or not, are the teams that next year when we're sitting here, I think we're going to say they made the jump 4 or 5 games. Unfortunately, that 4 or 5 games may not get them to the playoffs, but it's going to be a jump for both of them. One team coming out of this, the Patriots, even though I agree, you look at their roster, it's not impressive.
I also have the Patriots coming out, same kind of reason by default. The Jets, I'm with you 100%. I remember last year going into the season, they're going to go in 16, and they're a very competitive team throughout the year. They're a better team this year, playing in a not very good division. I can see the Jets going over 500, maybe sneaking in for a wild card. I'm on the fence about that one, but I do
Keep
like the
Jim on the
Patriots
show.
coming out of there. So.
Let's go to AFC South. We have the Colts, the Texans, the Jaguars, and the Titans. I'm going with the Jaguars to win that division. I'm going, surprisingly, the Colts as a wild card coming out. Yeah,
Okay, I've got Jacksonville making it as a wild card only. I'm betting on Houston to bounce back from a 4-win season and win the division, with the big caveat, and that is that their defensive personnel have to stay healthy and Deshaun Watson has to progress. And if that happens, I'm really high on Deshaun Watson and the offensive weapons that he has with him. So I've got Houston actually winning the division. I have Tennessee falling back, and Indy, I'm afraid. Maybe it's just the fact I saw them in preseason. They look so bad, but I just don't see them looking that great.
Well, there's John and I have talked about this division a lot. There's that X factor. Who are the Tennessee Titans, and what are they going to do? They're the ones who could really mess things up for everybody and all those perfect plans, because we never know. It seems like this team is just the hardest one to figure out. Are they going to, even if they're 8-8, they mess that division up, and that's what you're looking at. With the Tennessee Titan team, Houston again. I'm not sold on it. I think it's become too much of a chic pick again. Jacksonville, they're putting everything behind Blake Bortles again. So, that stout defense started getting picked apart later on in the season. So, it's going to be a toss-up to me in that division. One coming out, and I still have to stick with Jacksonville, just based on that defense alone and that momentum that they have. Houston, that was such a mess last year. You have to have a big dustpan to clean that up. And we'll see if they got their act together to clean it up this year, but I don't think it's good enough. I got one coming out, Jacksonville.
So raise your hand if you had Jacksonville going to the AFC Championship game last year. I don't think anybody would. But they won 7 games last year, more than the year before. That's a huge leap. You see probably a regression back to the mean a little bit. That's just too big of a leap. That's interesting how they constructed this team. They spent more money on the defensive line than any other team in NFL history has. They have over 25% of their salary cap on the defensive line. It worked for the most part last year. Blake Bortles held it together, lit the Steelers up, right? In that playoff game. So I see them coming back. Houston and Indy are big wild cards. Why? Because their quarterbacks were hurt last year. They both took a big step back. This division alone, Jaguars are +7, the Colts and the Texans -5 wins from the prior year to next year, to last year. I agree with Bill. I see Houston back up in. Deshaun Watson's the sample size was small, but it was impressive.
I like the kid. I hope he's back.
They scored points. It wasn't smoke and mirrors. I mean, they were damn good. It was an exciting team. I think they're back in the playoffs. This is a two playoff team division, and I think Tennessee's an 8-8 team, and I think Indy, even with Luck back, that roster is not good. That offensive line is horrible. So I don't see them being very good at all. But I see two teams coming out of this in the playoffs.
Again, we're on the same page. Jacksonville, we can't discount what they did last year. I don't think they're a fluke this year. I know that they were very impressive what they did to the Steelers. They're competing in that championship game, and also I do like the Texans coming out there as a wild card as well. Two-team playoff division. I'm looking forward to seeing what Deshaun can do. They have Watt back on defense. I think that's a big improvement there. So I could see the Jags and the Texans both coming out. The Titans. Again, you said 7-9, 8-8 every year it seems. They change coaches.
Screw things up.
I like Mariota a lot, but does he have who's he have around him? I know you can't judge a lot by the preseason, but they didn't do absolutely anything against the Steelers in the first half. So yeah, I can't see the Titans. I have them at third, maybe 6-7 wins, and then the Colts at the bottom. You feel bad for a guy like Luck. Seems like a great guy. You root for him, but I can't see the Colts making up any ground.
Yeah, I think Jacksonville Jaguars really did themselves a favor when they hired the man to run their football operations.
That's your boy, Tom Coughlin.
I mean, he is just a winner.
We've talked about that before, and I told them why they held New York Giants together is because they needed a man to could hold that team together.
That's right.
And run the show. The general was there. They take him down to Jacksonville. You talk to some of these coaches and people around these ball clubs, they'll tell you, if a team is messy on the field, they're messy in the locker room. Let me tell you, they ain't going to win games. And Coughlin, that was the best thing they ever did.
And you hired a hard-nosed coach?
Yep, and I'm happy for him.
Yeah.
I'm happy for him. So
Yep.
that's what it takes to win games. You don't do it on love.
AFC West, the Broncos, the Chiefs, the Chargers, the Raiders with John Gruden back at the helm. I have the Broncos winning that division this year, and that's all the team I have going out of the West.
Whoa.
I got it. What I think is going to be an interesting story. A team that plays in a soccer field that gets about 15,000 fans per game.
Yeah.
The LA Chargers. I think they're going to win it, and I think this is going out on a limb and maybe getting ahead of your
It's okay, yeah.
itinerary here. But I'm picking Phillip Rivers to be the MVP this year.
Wow.
And I think he's going to light it up. He's got Melvin Gordon really coming into his own, and take a look at Keenan Allen as a receiver. He's one of the top 2-3 in the league that I've seen. They've got a tremendous defensive line anchored by...
Lost their tight end.
Yes, they lost
Yeah, Hunter Henry, right? Gone?
Yeah.
Nick Bosa's big brother Joey's going to be anchoring the defensive line, and I think they're going to win it. The rest of that, I've got them all falling in line. Denver, and I think Kansas
They have
City.
a young coach, too, the Chargers, don't they?
They have Anthony Lynn. I'm kind of
Second year.
year for
a
him.
young guy, though, yeah.
As far as Kansas City, they've got all these offensive weapons, but I just think Patrick Mahomes is just going to have too many growing pains this year to really make it a playoff caliber team.
What about Gruden?
I have him at the bottom.
Go back to Monday Night
Bottom of
Football.
the list. I have them as a 4-win team, and maybe that's way off the mark.
Seeing what ESPN has for Monday night, I'm hoping Gruden goes back to Monday night. But go ahead, Lon.
I can't stand. I'm glad Oakland brought it. I can't stand him on Monday night. Some people, like Jim, like to hear the complete dissection of a play. It was a triple white and X-wing with a slash dash or doggy flip. Okay, that stuff is fun for the. I don't know.
So what do you got in the West coming out?
You know what? Actually, John's going to be a contrarian here.
Yes.
Because actually I picked Denver jumping up, grabbing a wild card, and the Chargers winning the division.
Nice.
So, and I was just bashed, belittled, berated, mocked, by my friends. Yes, for that. But Denver is a winning city. They are a winning football team. They know how to win.
Plus, you got to go up in that air and play.
Exactly. So, when you discount a team like Denver, people sit there and badmouth Elway, this, that, and the other thing. I'm sorry. There's plenty of teams would love to have John Elway
Get that right.
as their executive. Thank you very much. Chargers, Denver. Swicky.
Have-nots here in AFC West. I think Denver and Oakland are the have-nots. They both dropped one 6 games.
Case Keenum, baby.
Games from one year to the next. Who is the quarterback? In
Case
Denver?
Keenum.
We don't know. Yeah, good luck. They don't have the defense like they had and took them when took them to the Super Bowl when Manning was there. They've fallen back. You know, the Chargers. I agree with Bill. I think the Chargers are the team that's gonna win this division. I think they've had the injury bug the last couple of years that you would think that that type of thing would even out, since it's really based on chance and luck. Anthony Lynn is his second year. Last year they started out 0-4 and they finished 9-7 and really could have made the playoffs and we're in the cusp
I like
of
Philip
making the
Rivers.
playoffs. So I see them getting it. And I think we're discounting the Andy Reid factor. I think Kansas City is going to be good. Yes, they're going to have a second year quarterback, which will be his first year starting, but with the weapons, it's interesting. When they had Alex Smith, they had no weapons and they won. Now they got a bunch of weapons and they change quarterbacks and go to Mahomes. But I think Reid knows something.
Even without Smith, they didn't even throw the ball to wide receivers.
Yeah, all the short throws. So now
very
this is going to be a different type of offense. But Andy Reid he wins 9 or 10 games every year. So I think they get in the playoffs once again. So you have two teams coming out here. You got the Chargers and the Chiefs. And I think both Denver and Oakland are going to be below 500.
So, guys, when it's all said and done, as far as the AFC battling in the playoffs, who do you have?
Chargers, Philip Rivers. I like him in the West.
I'm
They're
sorry,
coming
Jim.
out.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mike.
No,
No,
go ahead.
You were just completely dismissed.
Sorry, Jim.
I know the feeling.
Who do you have?
Chargers.
Philip
I like
Rivers?
Philip Rivers. Yeah.
Because
I feel bad for San Diego losing a team like that. It's kind of sad seeing, like Bill said, playing in 10,000 seat stadium. But Philip Rivers is kind of like a Roethlisberger. He's underrated. He seems to have a great pedigree, of course, and he has two very good receivers.
what are they doing? Are they building a new stadium then, or what's going on down there?
In L.A.?
Yes.
Yeah.
Nah.
Are they? And I don't forget, next year, guys, the Raiders become the Vegas Raiders, right? Las
That's right.
Vegas next year. And by the way, I don't know if you guys saw this, but the Raiders fired their longtime play-by-play guy on the radio, and guess who they hired?
Who's that?
Mike
Brett
Furlow.
Musburger.
Brett Musburger, that's right.
He's the play-by-play guy for the Raiders, and they wanted that because next year they go to Vegas, and Brett knows a lot about Vegas. So
My boy
he's
Musburger.
their play-by-play guy on the radio.
He's about 106, isn't he?
seems like it.
So who do we have coming out of the AFC going to the Super Bowl? Jim, let's start with you.
I have the Jaguars over the Steelers in the AFC Championship.
Again.
I have the Steelers and the Chargers in the championship game, and I'm going to go with my heart. Says Steelers.
Yeah, I agree with John. I think the ghost of Alfred Papunu is going to be put to rest as the Steelers will finally win and be able to cover a third-string tight end and actually walk away with an AFC championship and go to the Super Bowl. So
I got the Chargers beating Houston for the AFC Championship, putting the Chargers in the Super Bowl.
I have the rematch Jaguars and Steelers, and I have the Steelers winning this time and going to the Super Bowl and actually winning the whole thing. And I think that the Steelers are going to perform so well the next 2 years that Randy Featon will be a hot item for a head coach. I really think that.
I'd love to see that.
I think that's
That'd be
going to
awesome.
happen. NFC East. Let's look at the NFC East because, that's where the Super Bowl champs came from. We have the Cowboys, the Eagles, the Redskins, and the Giants. Looks like all those teams improved. I'm going with the Eagles to repeat, and I have both wild cards coming out of the East. I have the Cowboys and the Giants.
All right. I got the Eagles slipping back to a wild card position. I'm high on Dallas this year. Interesting to pick that since they don't have Des Bryant and Jason Witten anymore. But
I think they're fine without Des
Not
Bryant.
having Des Bryant might help them.
Yeah.
You can't ignore the fact they have the best offensive line in football. They've got Ezekiel Elliott. I got a prediction that Zeke's going to make a run for the all-time NFL rushing league championship for a single season this year.
Sure.
And they did upgrade their receivers. They got Tavon Austin and Alan Hearns, a couple other guys. And I think their defense is a lot more stout than it's been in the past if Sean Lee stays healthy. So I got Dallas winning the division. Philadelphia is going to have a little bit of a Super Bowl hangover, but still make the playoffs. The Giants improving to 8-8 under Pat Shurmur.
Good coach.
And the Redskins bringing up the rear, but still winning maybe 4 or 5 games
That's another Gruden coach.
That's right.
with Adrian Peterson.
Yes, they signed AP.
I think about 30
So, yeah, I think this is one of the, I hate to say this, I think this is one of the weakest divisions in the NFC. And I don't put a lot of stock into preseason, but what I've seen so far with the Eagles, yeah. I'm sorry, that doesn't look like a Super Bowl team out there.
Didn't like that 5-0 game?
I'm sorry, even in preseason, Swick, 5-0 is a telltale sign.
I'm a Browns fan, and I was falling asleep.
I'm taking the Eagles by default. I think there's some marginal improvement with Dallas and with the Giants, which I've invested too much heart and soul in the Giants. I like what they've done in the offseason, but I think you're going to see some 500 clubs there and Philadelphia basically just a 9-win team that's going to win that division.
So
That's
you
how I
just
see
have
it.
Philly coming out.
Yep, that's it.
How about this stat? From 2016 to 2017, 6 teams make the playoffs from each division, right? There's only 1 team that repeated. And from 16 to 17 in NFC made the playoffs. That's a fascinating statistic. You usually have a turnover, the 12 teams that make the playoffs from one year to the next. You get about half, 5 to 6 teams, but to have 5 out of 6 teams get replaced is amazing. And this the NFC East is emblematic of that. You had the Eagles win 6 more games, where the Cowboys and the Giants lost 4 and 8 more games from one year to the next. Again, raise your hand if you thought the Eagles were going to win the Super Bowl. We didn't. None of us picked that. I would say that the power in the NFC is in the South and West. It's not in the East, certainly. It's not in the North this year. I have one team coming out, the Eagles. They're going to have a little bit of a hangover, but still, I think, based on the dearth of real talent in the rest of the division, the Giants will be better. I mean, they lost 8 more games from one year to the next. They were a dumpster fire last year. They will be better. I think that the Redskins, they're probably at their 500. That's where they're going to be this year as well. Cowboys, I see them. Maybe they were 9-7, maybe sneaking in as a wild card. But right now, I'm just going to go with the Eagles coming out of that division.
Yeah, Eagles are the only team out of there for me. We wonder, what's going to be the quarterback situation. Is Wentz healthy? Because Foles, I lived in Philadelphia when the first Nick Foles era and was alive and well when they were trying to get rid of Andy Reid. Philadelphia hated Nick Foles, and all of a sudden he's the Super Bowl hero.
Yeah, he was like the Cliff Stout of Pittsburgh.
Right, that's a good point. But I have the Eagles coming out almost by default. Cowboys in second, Giants in third. They will make improvements. They weren't as bad as the team as they were last year. They're not going to be a playoff team this year. And the Redskins are toiling in anonymity in the nation's capital.
I have one question about that, being from New York. Giants have Eli. Do they have anybody in line to come after Eli? Have they addressed that quarterback situation?
Teddy Bridgewater, I think he's their next backup
I
quarterback.
mean, they have nobody, right?
I don't know who their backup is.
Well, that tells you that they really don't have one. Nobody knows. NFC North, the Packers, the Bears, the Vikings, the Lions, and I'm going with the Packers because they have Aaron Rodgers and you don't if you're in the North.
Yeah.
That's all I'm picking from the North.
I got the Vikings. I don't think they're going to
Wow.
win 13 games this year, but I can see them winning about 11. I mean, you can't ignore the fact that they had the #1 defense in points and yards allowed last year, and they're all back. You can't ignore the fact that they've upgraded a quarterback if you assume that Kirk Cousins is an improvement.
No.
He's an $84 million quarterback, so they're hoping he's an improvement.
Yeah.
And I think they're strong at running back with Murray and Cook, and I just think that they're poised to make another good run. I do have the Packers. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be on a mission this year, and I can see them getting the wild card.
Phenomenal.
And they had Jimmy Graham. I think he's really going to be put to
Good
good
move.
use in Green Bay.
Yep.
Detroit seems a lot better on paper, at least at the running back position and building a defense. But I just
First-year
don't think. First-year coach. Who knows about Patricia? And the Bears with Mitchell Trubisky is probably going to emerge at some time, but not this year.
Yeah, I like Chicago and what they have in the backfield and some of the stuff they've done. They're going to be a fun team. They're going to give their fans a roller coaster. When it comes to the Vikings, I think they made a horrible mistake letting Case Keenum go. Absolutely. When I get mocked and teased and my hair pulled about the Denver Broncos, Case Keenum. Again, let's go back to that. Let's play with something. When somebody has nothing to lose, how do they play? That's how Case Keenum played, Swick, and you denied it. Kirk Cousins is the next Bubby Brister, but except with more money. That's what's going to happen.
A lot more money.
So I don't dismiss Kirk Cousins, but I don't see why, that kind of momentum swing and what they had going on with their wide receiving core, that tandem in the backfield in Minnesota. Give me a break. I mean, Case Keenum is going to be playing for blood this year. And Denver's going to make sure that he has some protection. They're going to build that up around him. But, I have Green Bay coming out just for the fact Aaron Rodgers is a proven winner. And the other teams, Detroit, they're like the funny cousin with the weird eye. You like them around, but you don't want them to stay.
At least be a night around TV Thanksgiving.
Yeah, so, come around for Thanksgiving. Then once you're done, you got to go. You're holding your coats and waiting, getting them to the door. So I got Green Bay coming out. Swick, what do you got?
I have this is the one playoff team division for me, and it's the Vikings. The Vikings are solid on both sides of the ball. They won 5 more games from 16 to 17. I see them holding serve. I see Green Bay not good. I don't think they're good on the offensive side of the ball. Jordy Nelson's gone. I don't see a lot of weapons for Aaron Rodgers. Yes, he is the top couple quarterbacks in the NFL. I get that. Their defense isn't very strong. I see them taking a step back, not making the playoffs. Where else am I? The Bears, I think, are going to step up a little bit. Yeah, the Bears won 5 games last year. 2 more. I see them maybe at a 500 team. I think they will be better. And the Lions, I agree with you. They were 9-7 the last 2 years. I don't see a direction there. Now with the new head coach, he's going to take some time. I see them taking a step back. One team coming out, and that's the Vikings.
I've got 2 coming out. Like Bill said, I think Aaron Rodgers is going to come back with a vengeance. He will miss Nelson, but how much did he have? Nelson?
How much did he play anyway for the injuries?
And I think Mike McCarthy loses his job. That's
wow.
Oh, that's a bold one.
Mike McCarthy basher.
Yeah. And he's a Pittsburgh guy.
He is.
Shame on you, man.
Just call it like I said.
But I've always liked Rodgers. You see what he means to the team after he went down last year. Graham, it's always good to have a safety valve like that in your tight end. And the Vikings too. I have them coming out as a wild card. Packers first, Vikings second. Lions and Bears, 6-7 wins each possibly, but I don't see those 2 making the move. So,
Right.
Green Bay and Minnesota.
We'll go through the next 2 quickly here because we're getting a countdown here. NFC South, Saints, Panthers, Buccaneers, Falcons. I'm going with the Falcons. You talk about a great quarterback. I'm going with the Falcons as the only team I have coming out.
It's the only team I have coming out, too. I think the addition of Calvin Ridley at wide receiver, rookie wide receiver, is going to be big for them. They got the speediest defense in the NFL, and I think they're possibly the class of the NFC. For some reason, I could be totally wrong. I see Carolina backing down a little bit this year. And New Orleans, I think, was their defense really that good last year? Or are they going to take a step back, too? That's the big question. I think New Orleans is going to take a bit of a step back and not make the playoffs.
Well, we had a great discussion about this a couple weeks ago, and actually Atlanta, I have them coming out and going to the Super Bowl against the Steelers. And I know John, he doesn't like Matt Ryan. He doesn't like his nickname. He doesn't even like his family. But, we know that Tampa
He doesn't
Bay.
like Boston College.
We know Tampa Bay is going to be a little bit of a mess. New Orleans could be the surprise team. And Carolina, I won't be shocked if, there's 3 playoff teams in this division. I'm definitely taking Atlanta and New Orleans. Because, if we're going to head out west and talk about the West, there's 2 teams out there on the precipice of, falling back and stepping back. But I got Atlanta and New Orleans coming out of the division. Maybe Carolina.
I'm with Lon. I see this as perhaps the strongest division in football, unlike my colleagues to the right here. I see 2, maybe 3 teams coming out. You're right. The Buccaneers are problematic here. Winston's suspended, and they're kind of directionless, I think. Although their defense is going to be good. Their defensive line is good, so maybe they're not going to be as bad as we think. But there's 3 teams that came out of this division last year in the playoffs. It was the best division in football last year with 2 11-win teams and a 10-win team. You're not finding that anywhere else. And I see some sustainability in the way those teams won. To Bill's point, New Orleans took a quantum leap defensively last year. We know Drew Brees is one of the best quarterbacks in the league, but defensively they were good. It seems like good defense, though, sustains itself. Typically, save for injuries, turnovers are always the one wild card that you can't predict. But I see 2, maybe 3 teams coming out here. Where they finish, though, just like last year, 11-11 and 10 wins. I don't know. It's going to be a tough call. But yeah, I think this is the best division in football.
Yeah, it's a very good division. I like Lon's pick as well. Falcons going to the Super Bowl. I would agree with that. Matty Ice, sorry.
Yeah. He's just an average. He's an average quarterback with a cool nickname.
He's got a cool nickname.
He's better than he is.
He's got a cool nickname and a hot wife.
And he's very,
He needs that name.
And Julio Jones.
That's right.
he's very intelligent.
And he's had weapons. You're right.
But I also have the Saints coming out of there as well. You can't count out Drew Brees. He's another one. Think about this era of quarterbacks. This past decade, you have your Brees, your Roethlisberger, your Rivers, your Brady. I mean, it's a very great group of quarterbacks that have come up. Manning. I have the Falcons and the Saints. Panthers could be there. It'll be interesting to see how they do. And then, the Buccaneers are bringing up the rear.
Okay, real quick, the NFC West, Seahawks, Rams, Cardinals, 49ers. I have the 49ers winning that division. I think they solved their quarterback problems. The rest of these teams, they don't interest me at all. I think the Niners are going to surprise everybody, and they'll be the team coming out of the West. Jim, I'm going to start with you.
Me, I think the Rams. I like the Rams a lot coming out of there. They have a good quarterback situation. We'll see what happens on defense. But Aaron Donald, the pick guy, proved to be maybe the most dominant defensive lineman in the NFL since who knows when. And it sounds like he's going to be under contract. The Seahawks, I can't see them. I mean, I think they're middling. They're a middling team, 7-9, maybe 8-8. 49ers, Garoppolo makes them better. We'll see if they can make that next step. And the Cardinals, aside from Larry Fitz, it might be a long year in Arizona.
I thought I was going to be bold and predict the 49ers make the playoffs as a wild card. Mike one-ups me and says they're going to win the division. I don't know how you can discount the Rams. The Rams won 7 more games from 16 to 17. They have everybody back. They look good. I think that they stay at 11 wins, but I think the 49ers get as a wild card, and I agree. I think the Seahawks were seeing a slide from them, and I see the Cardinals as, again, they're breaking a new quarterback. They're going to be lucky to be 8-8 next year.
Yep, I'm completely on line with that too. And in fact, that's what I predicted a couple weeks ago. Stand by that. I like San Francisco jumping up a peg, but here's the Carolina Panthers, San Francisco. I'll interchange those as a wild card. I think that wild card could happen for San Francisco, so that's where I'll leave it. So,
I have the Rams far and away the best team in the division, and the only playoff team in the division. And they already had a good offense. They added Brandon Cooks as a deep threat with Todd Gurley, and I'm sure Aaron Donald's going to be in there, our pit boy. And
Brandon Cooks was a very good addition.
Yeah.
So
the only interesting thing about Arizona is going to be to see how long Sam Bradford lasts as their quarterback. Seattle, interesting. I was just looking at their depth chart. If you look at their defense, Bobby Wagner's the only guy on there that you would remember.
Right.
Yeah,
They're all gone.
Legion of Doom is gone.
That's right. They're all gone.
Now, Pete Carroll may be able to pull it out, but I don't see it. And I don't see the 49ers. I think Garoppolo, his 5-0 record is going to be
we're cheering for Pete Carroll.
extinguished rather quickly this year.
Yeah.
Bold prediction here. If New Orleans doesn't make the playoffs, Sean Payton's out of a job, and I think he'll be out of a job. 2 teams in the Super Bowl. Start with Jim Berger.
I have
And pick the
Falcons over the Jaguars.
Okay.
So in the NFC in the finals, I have the Vikings and the Rams, and I actually have the Vikings going to the Super Bowl against
And-
Steelers.
Whoa,
Which is
an
a
old
replay of
Bun
1976.
Grant. That's right.
Who are you picking?
Bring back Frenchie Fuqua.
I don't know. I go to my heart. My heart says
Gotta
the
go
Steelers. My head
Steelers.
says
Okay.
the Vikings.
Come on.
I got Atlanta, and I still think they have a major bone to pick, and I think that team is committed to winning and getting back to the Super Bowl.
And playing.
And playing the Steelers.
And who are you picking?
Oh, of
Steelers.
course I'm picking the Steelers. The score's going to be 78-3.
I got Atlanta beating the Vikings in the NFC Championship. I've got Atlanta over the Chargers to win the Super Bowl.
Wow.
Interestingly, they'll be winning that in their home
I
stadium.
am. That's right. I'm
And
going
on
out.
Super Bowl Sunday night, I'm going to call John Swick up and rub it in.
We're going to have a rematch on my pick, too, John. I got the Steelers going to Super Bowl, but I have the Cowboys coming out of the NFC.
Wow.
That's another.
And I
another
think the
replay.
Steelers and Cowboys Super Bowl is going to be unbelievable. And I have the Steelers, like they did a while back, last drive of the game, winning the Super Bowl. Where is it at this year, guys?
It's in Atlanta.
Atlanta. Okay.
That's right. That's a stone throw. That's a cheap flight. Southwest
First
Airlines.
coach fired this season. Anybody?
First coach fired this season.
Hugh Jackson, if he goes 0-5, he's first.
He's going to run those jobs.
Who's on the block right now?
I got to say Marvin Lewis.
I want to think Marvin
Yeah.
He's
Lewis.
got to be the quickest one,
He's
but
got 9 lives.
But they don't want to pay another coach.
What about?
so,
Here's my thing. What about Baltimore?
Harbaugh?
How long did they stay with Harbaugh?
I think what's going to happen is if they lose, they're going to pull Flacco, and that's going to save Harbaugh's job because
Right.
they're going to put.
I think they realize that they're a smart organization. They're not a,
Right.
but I think they realize they sucked the marrow dry when they signed Flacco
Yes.
and really left themselves with not much blood flow. And so I think they're going to give Harbaugh a lot of leeway when it comes to that. But it's got to be Marvin. I mean, you think it's going to be Marvin Lewis.
Guys, this has been great. I want to thank all you guys for coming. John, I'm glad you signed a new contract to make it here.
It's multi-year, so I'll be back.
That's
next
nice.
year.
It's
For Jim, for John, for Lon, for Bill, this is Mike saying thanks for watching Sports Close-Up on Armstrong.